done and a race to be won, and we know we will win every time. Just keep the faith, heads up high. We're together in this, you and I. Yes, the job will be done and the race will be won, and we know we will win every time. And we go vote for the love of we country. We go vote to protect the treasury. Vote is only Dr. Rowley, the right choice for TNT. PNM is the choice, PNM is the voice, PNM all the way on election day is the right choice at the right time. Hands in the air for the Bali's, hey. Introducing my friend, the General, Sasha.
We voting PNM. Anyway, right choice, proud leader. The battle for our nation, your life matter, yeah. Real leadership, yo, we promise you forever. Vote PNM and everything will be much better, yeah. Strength and honor in 5 years of government. Never again will we allow mismanagement. PNM is here to say their love is permanent. Loyal to the flag and never bow to establishment. Who them try if it trick and sell out? But them care by my vote, me na bow out. Them better move when we're the army a run out. All these deceitful people will get burned out. Yeah, we know. Dr. Rowley, a leader phenomenal. The UNC full up of pirates and criminal. Send for the dog, cause the state is critical. Searching to perform, and this country's political structure. Send for the doctor again. It's a golden pen, a golden pen. Sign my name, sign my name. It's a golden. Anyway, we vote in PNM. Sign my name. It's a PNM pen, a PNM pen, a PNM pen. How are you sign my name? It's a PNM pen. We vote in PNM. PNM is a PNM power. PNM, a positive healing power. PNM, moving forward together. PNM, introducing Rishi, my brother.
All of we is one family. All of we is one family. Working together to build this country. When the world was breaking, everyone agreed. When the world was breaking, we happy it was seen. And that is why we voted for our country.
You don't forget to say,
No.
you don't ever forget to big them up, you know.
They have me here.
Yeah. But I want to begin this way this morning.
Yes.
All right? So URP feeding frenzy, a mean majority of $231 million used for payroll, with hundreds of names receiving salaries without performing any work. I'm also seeing at the back here, CPEP suffering, of which the PNM has been speaking about for the past few weeks. I'm also seeing where the Public Utilities Minister, Barry Padarath, accuses PNM of CPEP hypocrisy, and he speaks about a cabinet note that detailed the firing of contractors and the dismissal of employees in 2017, just days before the reopening of the school term. So a tit for tat really happening over the past few weeks, if I can say, between persons associated with this government and persons associated with the PNM. What's your perspective this morning?
You know, in preparation for this interview this morning, even over the weekend,
Yes.
you're seeing statements being made by government officials with respect to issues within the CPEP program and the unemployment relief program, and as you rightly said, a kind of tit for tat, and the government using alleged corruption within these programs as the basis upon which you bring these programs to an end. But first, let me start by saying that shortly after the last general elections, the PNM has warned the country that the government is going after these programs like CPEP and the URP, and there will be mass firing. One of the first persons to have said that is Senator Faris Alwari. He was criticized for it. But the information that was coming to us was that the government was intent on going after these programs to send thousands of people at home. Now, the playbook of the government is that you make wild allegations against persons within the People's National Movement. You make statements as though people, once you're a PNM, you cannot engage in legitimate business, you cannot tender for contracts and get contracts. And if by chance you happen to get a contract from the state or from a state agency, it is political nepotism, it is wrong, it is corrupt, and what have you. And that is now used as the basis upon which you send thousands of people at home. So that's the playbook. The playbook is it's apparent, it's clear. You make the wildest allegations without putting forward the appropriate evidence, and then you use that as the basis upon which you send thousands of people at home. Now, my position is, and the position of the PNM, is that if there is evidence of corruption and corrupt activities in any program, be it CPEP, be it URP, in any aspect of governance in Trinidad and Tobago, then you take the evidence, you forward it to the appropriate authorities, and let the chips fall where they may. That has been the case. I remember sitting in the cabinet of Dr. Keith Rowley, and he would always tell us as cabinet ministers that every top sit on their own bottom. He would remind us that every minister is responsible for what takes place in his ministry, and that whilst his government and the party would defend any minister with respect to wild allegations and unsubstantiated allegations, that once you have credible evidence of wrongdoing, it will be referred to the appropriate authorities and the appropriate action is taken. It is not the responsibility of politicians to go into ministries, you get evidence, you don't refer it to the appropriate authorities, you use it as a kind of tit for tat, and then what happens at the end of the day? Mothers are without jobs this morning. I am on my constituency WhatsApp pages, and that is what I'm pondering on. These people don't understand that you have single mothers. They depend on this salary on a fortnightly basis to put food on their tables, to feed their children, to buy uniforms for their children, especially at the start of this or the closure of this new school term. You really believe, and I don't believe that they care about this political tit for tat that the government is engaged in. And I am saying to the government and government officials today, you have credible evidence of wrongdoing in any of these programs, please refer it to the appropriate authorities. The previous government put in place the Office of Procurement Regulation and instituted the procurement regime. If there's any or there are any breaches of the Procurement Act with respect to the award of contracts, etc., you have the OPR that you can go to and report those matters and that appropriate action be taken. You can refer matters to the Anti-Corruption Bureau. You can refer matters to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. But that cannot be the basis upon which you put 17 or 20,000 people on the breadline. We are not saying any government has the responsibility to review any program. I mean, that is the whole, you expect that from a government, to go in and to review and to make changes. But what do you do? And how do you engage that? You need to engage it in a responsible manner. And the way the government has gone about this, Marlon, and given the statements by key government officials, this has absolutely nothing to do with the review of these programs.
Well, just to make a point here,
yes,
the government would have said over the past few weeks via certain ministers and so on, well, here's what, it is not the 10,000 workers that we do have the argument with, it is these contractors, and they have given the impression that these contractors were given multi-million-dollar contracts. They would have also spoken about wastage. They would have spoken about that some of these contractors are friends and family of
320 contractors. And I listened to one government minister saying that of these 320 contractors, about 20 or 25 of them have been struck off the list of registered companies. Then they refer to some companies owned by persons who are affiliated with the PNM or former councillors, serving councillors, and what have you. And when you listen to the information coming from these government officials, it is nowhere close to the 320 contractors. And the point I am making is that first, and I made the point earlier on, that it is not wrong, and it is not a breach of any law that I am familiar with, that someone who, because they are affiliated with a political party, that it is wrong for them to engage in legitimate contract work. Let us agree on that. You identify companies, you go into the list of directors of companies, and then you check to see their political affiliation, and you use that as a basis to shut down an entire program. 320 contractors. Is the government saying, or rather are the government officials saying, that these 320 contractors who awarded contracts on an illegitimate basis, that they all have political connections? And that is,
I think that's the impression that they have been given.
And that is absolutely wrong. And if that is if the government has, or government officials have the evidence that these 320 contractors were all awarded contracts illegitimately, then you take it to the appropriate authorities. They have not offered any evidence whatsoever that the 320 contractors were awarded contracts illegally. What they have done is cherry pick certain contractors, link their directors to officials or members of the People's National Movement, and use that as a platform to launch a scathing attack on over 10,000 workers within these programs. And that simply is wrong. I am saying that if you have evidence, and an affiliation with any political organization cannot be the basis upon which you send home over 11,000 workers. It cannot be. So going and cherry picking particular contractors and their directors and linking them to the PNM and using that as a platform and the basis upon which you shut down an entire program, sending thousands of people's lives in a tailspin, not knowing how they're going to put food on their tables, not knowing how they're going to send their children to school, is nothing but callous, and it is nothing but irresponsible. Our position in the PNM is that if you have evidence of wrongdoing, ghost gang, whatever you're saying, if you have evidence of it, take it to the appropriate authorities. But please do not use this as a basis upon which you attack thousands of people and putting their future in jeopardy and their children.
I see on the weekend you were quoted as having some concerns about workers of CPEP not being given their July salaries as yet. Of course, the Public Utilities Minister has said, well, CPEP has or had required supplemental funding during the mid-year budget. He is advised by the Permanent Secretary that ministries are working towards having the payments done next week.
These payments were promised to, or rather the payment of wages were promised to the CPEP workers last week. 11,000 people expecting to be paid their salaries. Days passed, no payment. Not a word from the CPEP company. Not a word from the Ministry of Public Utilities. The lives of these innocent citizens, single parents, mothers and fathers, etc., now placed in absolute jeopardy. And it is only when the PNM raised the issue of the non-payment of salaries despite the promise of payment by government officials, then the Minister of Public Utilities comes out and say, because of supplemental funding, administrative error, they were not able to make the deadline. The midterm review was passed weeks ago in the Parliament, and I recall the sum of $60 million the government requested for the supplementation of funding for that program. And that $60 million, Marlon, I recall the explanation for it was to ensure that you have sufficient payment for 12 additional contractors and to pay management fees for some of these contractors towards the end of the fiscal year. Nowhere in the debate in the Parliament, the government made any mention whatsoever that they were going to shut down the program. They were examined at the Standing Finance Committee. We had extensive debate in the lower house, extensive debate in the Senate. the supplementation of $60 million was approved, and as explained by the government, was to ensure the continuation of the program and to meet financial expenditure towards the end of this fiscal year.
But would you describe, as what you would have stated earlier, would you describe this as a shutting down of the program? Because government has given the impression, here's what, they are doing an audit, there is a transition period, and then they have given the impression that here's what, the program would be restarted. And I also know that they have spoken about a training component, because they have said, well, here's what, CPEP was never meant to be a permanent job, right? So you're giving people this temporary job, but I think that they have also criticized the last administration for not including a training component in it.
The government is making it up as they go along. They obviously had no plan. They had no system in place whatsoever to do what they are doing. It is governance by VAPs, governance by lies, governance by distraction. Because no responsible government, as far as I am concerned, would engage the restructuring of any program, and by so doing putting 11,000 workers on the breadline. Promising payment of wages and salaries last week cannot meet the deadline, and it is only when you are called out, you are trying to come up with some ridiculous excuse that you did not get supplementation or you did not get the necessary transfers and you can't meet the salaries, etc. It is governance by VAPs. There was no clear program, and yet still we are hearing what is the policy with respect to this program. What are you trying to achieve? There has not been any consistent explanation from any of the government's spokespersons as to the direction in which they want to take CPEP and what they are trying to achieve. I'll tell you this. As we speak right now, Trinidad is a very small place. And they talk about nepotism. They talk about political nepotism and corruption. But I can tell the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago today that a number of people have been called by executives of UNC constituencies all over Trinidad and Tobago, where they are registering their contractors and registering their workers. So they want to talk about political nepotism. Why it is only in UNC constituencies or UNC executives that they are calling contractors, and they are giving certain contractors not engage in any transparent procurement process to register contractors, because that is what we are saying. So they are issuing documents to their contractors, and they are calling people in UNC held constituencies, UNC executives, to register for names, register for contractors, and what have you. So you are doing that on one end. On the other end, you are accusing the People's National Movement of the worst possible thing about possible corruption, nepotism, people affiliated with the UNC and what have you, when you know that exactly what you are accusing the PNM for, you are engaged in secretly. So this whole idea of restructuring of the program, it is not that. The government came into office, they have stakeholders, they have made promises to a number of their stakeholders and people who now form part of this alliance. And this whole so-called restructuring is about ensuring that they deliver, and they deliver political blood for the people who would have been responsible for putting them in office.
But how do you respond to, and it's not a recent argument, that programs such as CPEP, URP, DUDE, over the years have been used by political parties? The employees of these organizations have been used by political parties, and in some cases used as a political football. And you see this severing of workers, you're seeing it happening every time there is a general election and a new administration comes in.
I will not, or rather I cannot dispute that in some of these programs, political parties use their political muscle and power to use these programs to fortify themselves politically. Can I deny that? I cannot deny it.
It's an allegation also against your party, yeah?
It is an allegation against all political parties. But what happened in 2015? Let's go back to what the evidence is. When the PNM came into office in 2015, the PNM inherited a situation where the former minister, UNC minister responsible for CPEP, extended contracts by 2 years and 3 years and what have you. Did the PNM government terminate these contracts when they came into office? The PNM government allowed these contracts to go through and to go to the end of their natural contractual life. Nowhere, and I have not seen any evidence where the PNM would have engaged in the activities that this current government is engaged in with respect to the mass firing of employees. And that is what you expect, because I tell you something, Marlon, Trinidad and Tobago is a country of 1.4 million people. And I am very concerned that the precedent being set by this government, the revenge, the mass firings, the bringing to an end and the dismantling of programs simply because they were put in place by your political opponent. I am concerned that if this is the new norm and the new trend in politics, then our democracy is going to be destabilized, and we will end up in a place where it might be very difficult to return. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you are talking about lives. You are talking about ordinary people in ordinary communities who don't care, perhaps, whether the PNM or the UNC or any other party forms the government. These ordinary people, all they want is to be able to put food on their tables and to go about their lives and to send their children to school and what have you. I
know that your party had promised legal action.
Yes.
Has that action been initiated as yet?
So the first claim was filed in court last week, and it's a team of attorneys led by Senior Counsel Larry Lala, Keith Scotland, Faris Alwari, and Kareem Marcel, and some other attorneys who are working on these legal matters. So the first claim was filed last week, and the hearing, the injunction hearing, will be on this Friday. All right. In addition to that, I can tell you that the government, not the opposition rather, is looking at other avenues in which to take legal action against the government, and this week we intend to file additional claims in court to take issue with the government on how they are handling this particular matter and to defend the lives of the thousands of people who are now on the breadline, and they are being treated in the way they are treated simply because they appear to be affiliated with the People's National Movement. So we intend to pursue additional legal action this week and in the coming weeks to defend those workers.
I wanted to get your perspective before you leave us this morning. I just have about a few minutes. I wanted to speak about the demerit point system. Of course, the government has said, well, we're going to scrap the system. I see that major changes would have been made as announced by the minister last week. Is it a good decision, you think, to scrap the system?
It can't be a good decision. The demerit point system was one of the systems that was put in place over the last 10 years with another suite of policies and laws to improve the issue of road safety in Trinidad and Tobago. The introduction of the red light camera system, this speeding system, the U-turn system, the setting up of an administrative process to deal with traffic matters as opposed to thousands of these matters going before the court, where 10,000 traffic matters were removed from the court system. And what we have seen, what is the evidence? The evidence is that over the years that we have seen a consistent reduction in road fatalities in Trinidad and Tobago, the lowest in many years. The demerit point system, Marlon, what is that system? It is a system that was put in place to track the behavior of drivers.
Yes.
Because one of the things that the previous government had recognized was that you had drivers who were consistently habitual traffic offenders. Many of those drivers They have lives in their hands. They're driving buses, they're driving taxis, maxis, etc. And they are putting people's lives in jeopardy. And the demerit point system was a system to track the behavior of those drivers and to put them in a rehabilitative program to improve their ability to drive, to observe the laws of the road, and to improve road safety. The evidence is there. We have seen consistent reduction in road fatalities and other serious accidents and what have you. How could it be?
Well, the Prime Minister said there is no evidence to show that it has worked.
The Prime Minister, I don't know if the Prime Minister reads on a daily basis. I don't know what they feed this woman with. With the greatest of respect to the Honourable Prime Minister, I don't know what empirical data, what evidence was placed before her and the cabinet to justify. This was all a campaign promise. It sounds good, it looks good, you pander to the population, you engage in policies and programs that will sound good, scrap property tax, remove the merit points, and that sounds good, the ordinary people will fall for it, and in falling for it, they will put us in government. Notwithstanding the fact that these decisions are going to jeopardize public interest.
I have 1 more minute. So it has been, and there's data now to show that there have been, and I speak to you now in the capacity of former National Security Minister,
yes,
that there have been 81 murders since the UNC would have taken office. Of course, last night, I don't know if you heard, but there was a triple murder
in Gonzales
last night. Yeah?
Yeah.
How do you see this?
I am not surprised. Governance in Trinidad and Tobago is not if you have the fanciest catchword or catchphrase, or when UNC win, everybody wins, and vote for us and we'll give you guns and there will be no more crimes and what have you. The citizens of this country will soon realize that this government has absolutely no plan, never prepared themselves over the last 9 or 10 years for governance in Trinidad and Tobago. It was all about engaging in cheap rhetoric, blaming every single thing on the PNM. So you don't have Fitzgerald Hines anymore in the ministry. You don't have, Keith Rowley as running the country anymore. And there are a lot of people who believe that you get rid of Fitzgerald Hines and then you're going to see an improvement in crime. The issue of crime is a very complex one. And the last PNM government has made it that point over and over and over again, that the issue of crime and security in Trinidad and Tobago is a complex one that would require dedicated and diligent focus on all aspects of this issue. And if we don't put that in place, then you will not see a reduction in crime. I can tell you that what we are seeing so far with this Minister of Homeland Security and what the government is engaged in, don't expect to see anything. I am not surprised that since the government has assumed office on April 28th, we now have 82 murders. It is going to get worse because they have not offered one scintilla of a program or anything that looks like a holistic program to be able to tackle the issue of crime and security in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Gone are the days, you're no longer in opposition, where you can blame Fitzgerald Hines or blame whatever, or put a tagline to fool people. You are now in the driver's seat, and it is time for you to put forward programs and policies to show the people of Trinidad and Tobago that you are serious about governance.
Marvin Gonzales, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for coming down this morning,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, we are going to a very short break. We're coming back.
Hey! Oh, na na na. Brendan ready, here we on. Yeah. Brendan ready, here we on. Calling all the Red Army. Brendan ready, here we on. Yeah, yeah. We on. Oh, na na na. Brendan ready, here we on. Calling all the Red Army. Brendan ready, here we on. Trinidad and Tobago. Brendan ready, here we on. Yeah, we on. Yeah, we ready now. Calling the Red Army. Calling out all our we friends and family with love for TNT. From the mountain top to the valley low, everywhere we go, country before party. PNM, we working together, we building together, young will make it better. PNM, side by side, together, we standing